All of these things are going on today. And we have to understand all of this stuff is biblical. We're living during that age. In 2012, the big thing was in 2012 was the Aztec and the Incas and the Mayans time clock. Remember that? There was prognosis that the world was going to end in 2012. You had certain churches pushing that. Sell all your goods, you know. And did the world end? There was one guy I used to listen to on the radio. He used to push that, and his name was, I used to listen to him for fun because he couldn't answer questions on an open line. I can't even remember his name. But he has a radio station. It's called Family Radio. And that's, I used to go to that while I would be driving in my car, listening to the discussions, and he could never answer hard questions. Like, for example, what is the Most High seal in the foreheads? He couldn't answer that. He didn't know. He said, I don't know that one. It's keeping the law, statutes, and commandments. It's obvious. Isaiah 8:16. Isaiah 8:20. Still the law among my disciples. He couldn't answer that. So you had false prophets popping up all over the place during that time. So we got to be careful of that. But it was all prophesied in the scriptures. Let's go to Matthew chapter 24. And if you could put your phones on mute so we don't have any rumble in the jungle in the background, it'll be great. Matthew chapter 24, verse 10. Matthew chapter 24, verse 10. This is in the New Covenant. Matthew 24, verse 10. And then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. That's what's going on in Hollywood, or Hollyweird. A lot of people hating on each other now. And many false prophets shall rise, and shall deceive many. T.D. Jakes, Creflo Dollar. At least Creflo apologized for taking tithes from this congregation, but he's still pushing that same Christianity narrative. He ain't told them who they are. Farrakhan is probably the closest to us, if anyone, as far as pushing the truth. But he's still pushing everybody to Islam and not telling them that they're the 12 tribes of Israel. They need to read their Bibles and keep the commandments. He still ain't teaching that. So he's just as big as a phony and a fake as the rest of them. Until he starts to repent and keep the Most High's law, statutes, commandments. And I feel for all these brothers. I love all these brothers. I would love for them to repent. I don't want to see anybody go to hell, go into darkness. But hey, we have the freedom of choice to choose. We have liberty to choose. Right? That's what Ezra said. Verse 12. And because iniquity, I'll start at verse 11. And many false prophets shall rise and shall deceive many. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. But he that shall endure unto the end shall be saved. That's what it's all about, being saved in the end. What does he mean by endure to the end? What does he mean by that? If we go into the Apocrypha breaks down what that endure to the end is. Let's go to Sirach chapter 4 in the Apocrypha, which is also known as Ecclesiasticus. Sirach chapter 4. Sirach chapter 4, and let's go to verse 28. Sirach chapter 4, verse 28. Strive for the truth unto death. It says to strive for the truth unto death. And the Most High shall fight for thee. The Most High will save you if your heart is right and you keep the law, statutes, and commandments. He'll give you an opportunity to escape any kind of tribulation. And this truth, You have to run until you can't run no more. And then walk until you can't walk no more. And then talk until you can't talk no more. And then write until you can't write no more. Until your heart give out. That's what it means to strive for the truth unto death. That's what it means. You cannot give up. You cannot stop. Let's go to Luke chapter 10. Luke chapter 10. And let's go to verse 24. Luke 10 and 24. Luke chapter 10, verse 24. For I tell you that many prophets and kings have desired to see those things which you see. All these things that we're seeing today, the prophets didn't see none of it. We're seeing everything unfold. So much truth is coming out now, it's mind-boggling. I mean, in every area. In every area. It ain't just history. It's in every area. For I tell you that many prophets and kings have desired to see those things which you see. How many inventions has been invented in the last 150 years? Just look at that alone. Thousands of inventions have been invented, if not millions. The patent office can't even hold them all anymore in Washington. For I tell you that many prophets and kings have desired to see those things which you see, and have not seen them, and to hear those things which you hear, and have not heard them. See that? All praise to the Most High for that. This is his time. This is the time. Let's go to John, Gospel of John, chapter 10. Let's go to chapter 8. Gospel of John, chapter 8. Exciting times, man. John chapter 8, verse 48. And the thing about the truth, it's like this. Remember during the dot-com era? I remember when the dot-com era hit in the 90s, and all these young people were getting rich and retiring, and they're like 25, 26. And I said, man, what is it that dot-com is? What is that? I was trying to wrap my mind around it so I could be a part of it, but it was too late. I was always too late on everything. When they had the pyramid scheme, I don't know if any of y'all ever did that. I did that back in the day, and I lost miserably. And by the time I got into it, it was closing up. The police was coming in. I could never be in there in the beginning and make all the money. I was always the one that came in last. But with this truth, we're so far ahead of everyone. There ain't no way Esau can even catch up. He's just now figuring out what we know. And we're so far ahead of him, there's no way of Esau catching up. That's what I love about this truth. Because I failed at everything else, I ain't going to fail at this. Most High will it. I pray that we all succeed in making it to the kingdom. Luke chapter 8, verse 48. Then answered the Jews and said unto him, say we not well that thou art a Samaritan and hast a devil? These are the Sadducees and the Pharisees giving Yahushua a hard time. They called him a Samaritan, which is a 10-triber. Verse 49, Yahushua answered, I have not a devil, but I honor my Father, and you do dishonor me. He didn't even speak on the Samaritan part because he knew who those people were. And I seek not my own glory. There is one that seeketh and judgeth. Verily, verily, I say unto you, if a man keep my sayings, he shall never see death. That's the key. We have to endure to the end. If we keep his sayings and continue to do and not fall short of the glory of the Most High every time, okay, we have opportunity to receive life in the end. Verse 52, then said the Jews unto him, now we know that thou hast a devil, even though he said he didn't have one. Abraham is dead, and the prophets. And thou sayest, if a man keep my sayings, he shall never taste of death? Art thou greater than our father Abraham, which is dead, and the prophets are dead? Who makest thou thyself? Yahushua answered, if I honor myself, my honor is nothing. It is my Father that honoreth me, of whom ye say that he is your power. Now, don't get this twisted. Yahushua knew the parameters of the Most High, just like Ezekiel, Jeremiah, Isaiah. All these prophets knew that the Most High sent them. What did Jeremiah say in the very first chapter? He said that the Most High knew him in the womb. Right? He knew him in the womb. So that's the same thing Yahushua would say, when he said, it is my Father that honoreth me. The Most High honored Jeremiah to come out and teach the gospel. Ezekiel chapter 3. Look at Ezekiel 3 and 5. We'll come right back to this. Ezekiel 3 and 5. Ezekiel 3 and verse 5. It says, let's start at 4. For they are impotent children and stiff-hearted. I do send thee unto them, and thou shalt say unto them, thus saith the Most High of hosts. So the Most High of hosts honored who? Ezekiel. And they, whether they will hear or whether they will forbear, for they are a rebellious house, yet shall know that there hath been a prophet among them. Now, who sent this prophet? It was the Most High. He's talking to Ezekiel. Let's go back to John, the Gospel of John, chapter 8, verse 54. We have to understand that Yahushua was in the flesh. He had not completely went back to the heavens yet to be with the Father. He was still on the earth, and he still had tests to accomplish. He had to accomplish all the things that the Father sent him down here to do. Verse 54, Yahushua answered, if I honor myself, my honor is nothing. See that? It is my Father that honoreth me, of whom ye say that he is your power. Yet ye have not known him, but I know him. And if I should say, I know him not, I shall be a liar, like unto you. But I know him and keep the sayings. And this is what Yahushua is trying to show the rest of the world. If we do what the Father asks us to do, not only do we give the Most High all the glory, the Most High will establish that glory within us. Verse 56, your father Abraham rejoiced to see my day, and he saw it and was glad. So this is all prophetic. So we follow Hamashiach. We follow Hamashiach because he was the high priest to come that Melchizedek spoke of. Let's go to Matthew chapter 4. Matthew chapter 4, verse 17. Matthew chapter 4, verse 17. And it reads, from that time Yahushua began to preach and to say, repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. And Yahushua walking in the Sea of Galilee saw two brethren, Simon called Peter and Andrew his brother, casting a net into the sea, for they were fishers. And he saith unto them, follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. Why did he say follow him? Because he knew the righteous path. The Most High had already put that ruach on him. He said, come on, man, I'm going to show you how to keep the will of the Father. Just like Paul said in 1 Corinthians 11:1. He says, follow me as I am a follower of Hamashiach. So we got to be just like that. Look at verse 25 of the same chapter. Matthew 4 and 25. And there followed him great multitudes of people from Galilee and from Decapolis and from Jerusalem and from Judea and from beyond Jordan. All these people followed Yahushua because he had that life. He had that water, that everlasting life to give. What did he teach? Let's see what he taught. Stay right there in 4 and jump down to chapter 5. Actually, let's go to chapter 10. Matthew chapter 10. And let's go to verse 5. This is what he taught. Matthew chapter 10, verse 5. You can't get around this. This is what the Christians, their doctrines don't cover this. Matthew chapter 10, verse 5. These 12 Yahushua sent forth and commanded them, saying, Go not into the way of the Gentiles, and into any city of the Samaritans enter ye not, but go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Did he say just to Judah? Did he say just to Ephraim? He said, no, go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And as ye go, preach, saying, the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Heal the sick, cleanse the lepers, raise the dead, cast out devils. Freely ye have received, freely give. See that? That's what we're supposed to do. This whole thing is set up for us to give the gospel. I'll tell you a little story about me. It's just a small story. I don't like to go in depth about myself. But this is a testimony, and but this first testimony I'm going to speak on a family member of mine. I had an uncle. He was one out of 7 brothers. And out of the 7 brothers, I mean, one of those 7 brothers, my father, of course, one of the 7 brothers, and he was the toughest out of all of them. And he landed right in the middle of the 7. But he was the toughest and the strongest of all of them. His hands was like bricks because all he did was pour concrete for a living. So he was a strong dude. He was a contractor, and he did that job for a long time until he lost his wife. Okay, so when he lost his wife, it took a toll on him, and he stopped working. He started abusing his body with alcohol and drugs, and he had the type of willpower. If he wanted to stop doing something, he was that type of brother that could just stop on the spot, and he did. Okay, but when he decided to stop, the damage was already done to his body. And y'all know that if you smoke cigarettes for a long, long time, you know, you'll never have the same lungs you once had before, right? But y'all know what I mean when I said the damage is done. You could damage your body for overly endowing in something. For example, like Solomon. Solomon overdowed himself in women. He had 700 wives and 1,000 concubines. He over-endowed himself in women. That was his weakness. But all of us have different weaknesses, okay? Most men have weaknesses, and their weaknesses normally at the top of the line is women, money and women. Solomon, the Most High set up Solomon as a testament for us not to follow that same path. That's why Solomon existed. The Most High set him up as a king. And if you're a king, he said, I'm going to give you whatever you want. He gave Solomon everything that he wanted. He got it. And he abused himself too much, right? Where he destroyed his body. Let's go to Sirach chapter 47. Let me show you what I mean. What the scriptures say about over-endowing in something. Sirach chapter 47. Sirach chapter 47 and verse 19. 47, verse 19. And this is talking about Solomon, even though it's not saying it's Solomon, but we all know by reading the whole content of this, it starts out with his father, David, of this chapter. But verse 19, it says, Thou didst bow thy loins unto women, and by thy body thou was brought into subjection. How was his body brought into subjection? He stopped worshiping the Father. Okay? He shortened the days of his life. All right? He was, even though he was Solomon and he was a king, he was probably stressed out. He had children all over the place and children that would not listen to him. One of his sons took off and then came back. All right, that was supposed to be king. So, you know, he put his body into subjection. By putting his body into subjection, he allowed sin to come in, and Satan had way with Solomon and his body. Look at verse 20. Thou didst stain thy honor. So we all know Solomon as being a sinner. And polluted thy seed, right? His seed is the reason why We're all over the place today. It's due to Solomon. Can't blame everything on him, but he's one of the factors. So that thou brought wrath upon thy children, and was grieved for thy folly. So it tells you in the next verse, so the kingdom was divided, and out of Ephraim ruled a rebellious kingdom. So Solomon was one of the factors why we're where we are today. And the Most High set him up just for that reason, for us to see him as an example. And this is why Nehemiah goes into it in the 13th chapter. It talks about foreign women, women who won't believe in the Father, and you yoking yourself with them, and it's not equally yoked. So this is what I mean when it comes to my family member. But never underestimate the Most High's mercy. Never underestimate his mercy. You know what I mean? Because he did let Solomon live to the end of his days. But he took out that judgment on his seed because King David, he sworn that to King David. Let's go to Ecclesiastes, not in the Apocrypha, Ecclesiastes chapter 7. Ecclesiastes chapter 7. I'm stuck on Solomon now. Ecclesiastes chapter 7. Let's read verse 15. Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 15. All things have I seen in the days of my vanity. This is Solomon speaking. There is a just man that perish in his righteousness. There is a just man that perish in his righteousness. And there is a wicked man that prolongeth his life in wickedness. Be not righteous over much. This is what we have to work on, right? We have to have some form of humility. Be not righteous over much, neither make thyself over wise. Why shouldest thou destroy thyself? So a lot of men think that they're just or too just when they get righteous understanding. But the Most High says he will perish in his righteousness. Why that man? Because that man needs to show some form of humility. Right? If you know a lot and you figure, okay, I've learned the scriptures, I got the truth, I know more than this man, that man, that man, you better show some humility. Because he may perish quicker than the wicked man who desired mercy. So you got to get the point. So going back to my uncle, he had to undergo a serious surgery behind the drugs and the alcohol. Possibly, he probably damaged his kidneys or one of his organs, right? While they were operating on him on this table in the surgery room, he actually stopped breathing. And on the operating table, they had to resuscitate. So he survived. He came back. So now, around this time, I was probably in my late 20s. I'm in my mid-50s now, right? So when I got the truth, and I remember at this time, I flew out to my grandmother's house to see her. Specifically, I went there to see her, and he was there. Okay, my grandmother, if a lot of you don't know, my grandmother was part of the commandment keepers. She was of that congregation. The commandment keepers that are out in New York, they actually spread close to the Midwest. And a lot of brothers and sisters, people don't know this, but there's a lot of commandment keepers that stem from New York, all in the Midwest. And so Rabbi Wentworth Matthew was her rabbi. When I got there, the first thing I did was I spoke with her. He came out, and then me and him got to talking about the scriptures, and we sat down at the kitchen table, right? And this is about 4 p.m., and so it was still daylight out. It was summertime, and at this point, he was in his Bible every day. He had just survived this massive surgery. He was in his Bible every day. He was staying with my grandmother, right? And I remember talking to him about prophecies of the Bible regarding the truth. And I expounded the truth of every question that he had. I gave him an answer within the scriptures, okay? And he was just floored. But at the same time, my grandmother was sitting there. Now, my grandmother, she kept the Sabbath. She dressed in long white dresses, right? She wore her natural hair, so her hair was very healthy, right? She didn't eat pork, but everybody else in the house did because she didn't know how to expound the truth on them. So everybody was always mad at her, even my great-grandmother, because my grandmother was in the truth. On Saturday, she didn't do nothing. She didn't cook. She didn't do nothing on the Shabbat. All right, that was one thing that she did. But as far as expounding the truth to her children and to her family members, she didn't have that knack for doing that. So they still did what they wanted to do. So we sat down, again, I sat down with my uncle, and I expounded the truth on him to his random questioning. We talked all night about the truth till 6:30 a.m. the next morning. The sun was coming up. He had question after question after question, and we was fully engaged. I don't even think I looked away. We was fully engaged, and the Most High allowed me to answer every one of the questions he had with the scripture. It wasn't a smooth conversation at all, because he was challenging me. But we was so engaged. The only time he got up was to either get some water, and I think the only reason he stopped is because he had to go to dialysis. He had a dialysis appointment the next morning, and that was like at 6:30. So he had to get ready to go. I never knew the final impact of our conversation while talking with him until the funeral happened 5 years after. He actually ended up dying, right? So I didn't see him after that. I didn't know how this truth impacted his life until his funeral. And what I mean by that is he had two sons, and they were in their 20s as well. And one of his sons, no one really communicated with him because he was a gangbanger, heavy gangbanger, right? Yeah, went in and out of prison, in and out of prison. So I didn't know what to expect from him. I didn't approach him. And then I remember jumping in the car, getting ready to go, and he ran out to the car, and he knocked on my window while I was getting ready to go. And I didn't know what he wanted, so I rolled down my window, and he said, "Cuz, my pops told me to get at you, man." And I was like, "What?" He said, "My pops told me before he died to get at you and get your number." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Man, my pops told me that you got the truth, and I want it." So he is now in the truth today, okay? So you never know the impact you have on people. The Most High is great. Now, while talking with my uncle all those hours, there's something interesting I like to say, what made him change to read the Bible. He said when he was on that operating table, he actually died. You remember I told you he stopped breathing. When I asked him what happened, he said, "Man, I came out of my body while I was in the surgery room, and I saw them operating on my body." And he said, "Man, it was cold in there." And he said he turned around, and he could see this light. And then he said behind him, his body was gone. Everybody in the surgery room was gone, and it was straight darkness. And he said, "Man, I felt the darkness," and he said, "I felt the sense of sorrowness." He said, and he put his head down, and he started shaking his head. He says, "What have I done for the Most High?" He said, "What have I done for the Most High?" He kept saying, he says, "I have done nothing for the Most High." And that touched me when he told me that. And he said instantly he was back in his body. But he said he remembers that, just how it happened. So testimonies are important to hear it. To see him wake up and then come into the truth and live another 5 years and then tell somebody else like his son is a blessing, man. And now his son is in the truth. But the Most High is great. Let's go to Psalms chapter 85. Psalms chapter 85. You never know the impact of this truth. Psalms 85, verse 11. Psalms 85, verse 11. It reads, truth shall spring out of the earth. It didn't say it would ooze out of the earth. It didn't say it would drip out of the earth. It said the truth would spring out of the earth. The righteousness shall look down from heaven. Yea, the Most High shall give that which is good, and our land shall yield her increase. The Most High is going to bless us with this truth, and eventually the end game is life, everlasting life, and our land back. Okay, another testimony is Brother Yahar. When I first met Brother Yahar, he said he used to go to the reservations and teach all the time. And I used to applaud this brother for doing that because he was the only one going out there doing it. And I used to hear his testimony every week. He'd tell me that he dealt with a couple of the chiefs on grounds, and they would have Bible studies. Brother Lance and I forget the other brother's name that passed away. But Brother Yahar used to talk about that. Kevin, that's him. All praises. And I told Brother Yahar, I said, hey, man, I said, I'm gonna get out there one day, and I'm going to come visit you. We're going to go there. And we did it. I brought Brother Barzal, and we drove out there. We went to go visit Brother Yahar, and he showed us his beautiful fishing range with some poles he had never used. It's been sitting there for about 2 years. I'm kidding. But he took us to the reservation, and we met Brother Lance, Brother Kevin. There's another brother there, ministers, I believe, or community leaders. And, man, that got heated. But it was all in love and fun. And it was the same way as it was with my uncle. They had question after question after question, and it was turning the scriptures. And, man, it was the best time that we had on a reservation ever. And Brother Yahar was accommodating, and he was the neutral man in the whole ordeal. And you just never know the magnitude of that. You just never know how far it's going to go. It's just amazing. That's why the Most High wants our people to get it first, because he tells you if he had went to another nation, they'd be ready to hear. You know, Ezekiel chapter 3. Man, they would love for you to come sit down and talk to them about this truth. They ain't going to tell you to do it. They don't want to get cut up. But if it's in the neutral ground where you can sit there and talk to them, man, they will suck every word out of you. Let's go to Ezekiel chapter 3. Ezekiel chapter 3, verse 4. And I was on good behavior because, you know, I teach on the street. So with that fire, I had to tone it down a little bit. I didn't even let Barzal get in. But Ezekiel chapter 3, verse 4. It says, I'll start at 5. For thou art not sent to a people of a strange speech and a hard language, but to the house of Israel. Not too many people of a strange speech and of a hard language, whose words thou canst not understand. Surely had I sent thee to them, they would have hearkened unto you. See that? But the house of Israel will not hearken unto you, for they will not hearken unto me. For all the house of Israel are impotent and hard-hearted. So the Most High is telling us right there, if we go to any other nation and sit down with them, man, they will be excited. But Lance and Kevin gave us a fight, and I pray that Brother Yahar won them over eventually. One lost his life, and I pray that he rest in peace. And the other one, I don't know how he's doing. I don't know if Brother Yahar is still in touch with him. But the Most High has the last word. Let's go to 1 Peter. 1 Peter chapter 1. 1 Peter chapter 1, verse 3. Blessed be the Most High and Father, our power, Yahweh Shai, or Mashiach, which according to his abundant mercy hath begotten us again unto a lively hope, by the resurrection of Mashiach Yahushai from the dead, to an inheritance incorruptible and undefiled, and that fadeth not away, reserved in heaven for you. This is what we're waiting on. Heaven ain't in the sky. Reserved in heaven for you. It's going to be here. It's another kingdom coming on earth. Who are kept by the power of the Most High through faith unto salvation, ready to be revealed in the last time, wherein ye greatly rejoice, though now for a season, if need be, ye are in heaviness through manifold temptations, that the trial of your faith, being much more precious than of gold that perish, though it be tried with fire, might be found unto praise and honor and glory at the appearing of Hamashiach Yahushua. We're waiting on that. In the book of Maccabees, the Greeks saw in the skies events that they were terrified of. They saw armies in the sky. Whenever there's a transition of power on the earth, we see the chariots in the sky. And at that time, it said for 3 days, I think it's the second Maccabees. We ain't got to go there. You look it up yourself. But they saw armies in the sky, horses and chariots in the sky, okay, for 3 days, where they stopped battling. They didn't even go to war. They waited for that to end. Verse 8, whom having not seen ye love, in whom thou now ye see him not. Yet believing ye rejoice with joy unspeakable and full of glory. So the Most High, he wants us to be like him. People oftentimes wonder why we say keep the commandments. It's so we can get to the next life. And so we can be prepared for when it comes. It's going to come like a wave, man. In Baruch, it talks about if you don't have the laws and statutes and commandments in you, if you don't have that oil in you, that wave, when it comes, it's just going to take people out. People are just going to be dying left and right. If you don't have anything to sustain life in you, you're just going to just be part of the corruption. You're just going to disappear. Everything, trees, animals, everything is just going to die if it doesn't have life in it, except for the ones that the Most High spares. Let's go to Proverbs chapter 6. Man, we have to listen to his testimonies. We have to listen to his statutes. The book of Proverbs teaches you how to be men. Proverbs chapter 6. Proverbs chapter 6, verse 23. The Most High made us. He knows exactly what tempts us. He knows your temptation, and so does Satan. Satan knows your temptation too, even more so. So what do you think you're going to get tempted with? You already defeated him in pork. You already defeated him in shrimp and crab. That was easy. Okay, you got the fringes. You defeated him in that. But there's always that one old sin that keeps creeping up that challenges your mind and your psyche at the right moment. That's the sin that can literally take you out. That one sin. You may have mastered all but lost on one, and that's what Romans was talking about. You could break one and fail. Proverbs chapter 6, verse 23. For the commandment is a lamp, and the law is light, and reproofs of instruction are the way of life. That's what we got to keep in us, that lamp, that law, that light. We have to stay on the righteous path throughout our lives. No matter what. I'm going to go into the book of Baruch in the Sefer. Now, the Sefer was given to our forefathers, okay? Our forefathers had this during the time of Queen Candace, the one that was in Ethiopia. In Israel, a lot of our brothers was reading the Sefer. All right? Let's go to 2 Baruch, chapter 50. If you have a Sefer, if you don't have a Sefer, you can just listen because it's a beautiful, these are beautiful scriptures. It helps you understand how it's going to be when the Most High returns. All right, so we're going to touch on the Sefer right now. We're going to go on the 2 Baruch, chapter 50. And I actually sent this to the conference call. If you have the picture I sent last week, I sent 50 and 51 to you. 2 Baruch, chapter 50. And it reads, and he answered and said unto me, hear, Baruch, this word. Who is Baruch? Baruch was Jeremiah's scribe. The prophet Jeremiah, he had a scribe, and it was Baruch. And he answered and said unto me, hear, Baruch, this word, and write in the remembrance of your heart all that you shall learn. For the earth shall then assuredly restore the dead, which it now receives. In order to preserve them, it shall make no change in their form. So think about what he just said. Now, I said that without a period being there for a reason. In order to preserve them, it shall make no change in their form. What does that mean? That means you have to go into the earth. When you die, you better have these commandments in you or you're not coming up. The form that you have right now better have the commandments in it. That's the only way you can get into the next kingdom. If you don't have it in you, there ain't going to be no change in your form. But if you have life in you, which is the commandments, the Most High is going to bring you up. The earth, it's going to be an automatic thing. The Most High ain't going to go down and say, 1, 2, 3. It's like a system. It's like turning your sprinkler system on. It's just going to come on. You know what I mean? And it's going to come on like a cycle regularly. It's already set up. Okay? Don't think that it's like the Most High going to come down with a magic wand and ding, ding. No, this thing is going to be like a wave. So you better already have the commandments in you, in your vessel. It says, it shall make no change in their form, but as it has received, so shall it restore them. And as I delivered them unto it, so also shall it raise them. All right, so you better have a commandment. But then it will be necessary to show to the living that the dead have come to life again, and that those who had departed have returned again. See that? And it shall come to pass when they have severely recognized those whom they now know, then judgment shall grow strong. And those things which before were spoken of shall come. So once that time happened, brothers start waking up from the grave, judgment is really about to set in. People are going to start passing away, getting sick. Because when Satan leaves, he's taking everybody with him. There's going to be a wave coming through. Right? A wave of death and a wave of life. It's like the sun going up and the moon going down. It's going to be like that. The moon taking all the darkness with it. And the sun is bringing all the light with it. Think about all these people who make a deal with Satan. Why would you make a deal with Satan when you know the end game is for you to be in hell? I mean, how could you even live with those goods knowing you're going to die and go right into the grave and never rise again? You know you're going in the dark. Why would you do that? And like the brother Cat Williams was giving up all these people and the type of deeds that they got to do to get somewhere, that should blow your mind. It's amazing. What I'm trying to say is they know who you are. They know exactly when you were born. They know where you were born. They almost know what you're supposed to do on this earth. He came up with this act to destroy all the new black messiahs being born across the United States. I don't know if y'all ever heard of that. But there was once a documentary that they had up that they took down immediately when YouTube came up. They took it down. COINTELPRO. That's when the Watergate thing happened. They found this document. And the cities of the places where they were supposed to kill all the black babies being born were the major cities: New York, D.C., Chicago, Philly, Texas, California, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Seattle, all the major cities where there was predominantly black children being born. They implemented something to kill all the babies, all the boy babies. I kid you not, this is a real thing. Okay? And I wish I had kept that documentary. If anybody could find that, send it to me. But I tried to look. I've been trying to look ever since 2010. I can't find it. But they know who you are. They know what you're supposed to do. They knew that this truth was going to move the masses. They knew this thing. They didn't know how it was going to happen, but they knew it was going to come out. And they almost got it down to knowing which children was going to do it. So their aim was, Operation Kill the Black Messiahs, right? So that's why the drugs came out, crack cocaine. That's why it destroyed the rap world, the conscious rap world. That's why the prisons took off. Ronald Reagan was a part of that. George Bush Sr. was a part of that. Clinton was a part of that. All these presidents were a part of that, all right? So all of that stuff was supposed to happen to prevent this truth from coming out. So you brothers and sisters that are here, all praises. But it began in the late 60s, around 64 on up. And that's when that thing was implemented, 64 to like 74, something like that, in between there. Yeah, we're in a heavy, exciting time. Let's go to Psalms chapter 17. Psalms chapter 17, verse 13. Arise, O power, disappoint him, cast him down. Deliver my soul from the wicked, which is thy sword. From men which are thy hand, O power, from men of the world, which have their portion in this life, and whose belly thou fillest with thy hid treasures. They are full of children, and leave the rest of their substance to their babes. You see that? They leave all their empires to their children. As for me, I will behold thy face in righteousness. I shall be satisfied when I awake with thy likeness. And that's exactly what Baruch was talking about. I'm going to end the class with that. I hope this class was a blessing to you, brothers and sisters. We are definitely living during exciting times.
This is the word of the Lord of hosts. I took you from the pastures and from following the sheep to be prince over my people Israel. I have been with you wherever you have gone and have destroyed all the enemies in your path. I will make you a great name among the great ones of the earth. I will assign a place for my people in Israel. There I will plant them, and they shall dwell in their own land.